There was once a woman whose family called her the heart of the home. Whenever someone was tired, they called her. Whenever someone was angry, they blamed her. Whenever someone needed comfort, she listened. Whenever someone needed forgiveness, she gave it. Whenever peace had to be restored, she was expected to restore it. Everyone said she was a wonderful daughter. Later, everyone said she was a wonderful wife. But one night, she stood alone in front of a mirror and noticed something frightening. She could not remember the last time anyone had asked her what she needed. Even worse, she could not remember what she needed. She knew everyone's favorite meal. She knew everyone's moods. She knew which words would upset her husband. She knew which dreams would disappoint her parents. She knew when to remain silent, when to apologize, when to smile, and when to pretend that nothing had hurt her. But she no longer knew herself. The woman in the mirror was not selfish. She was not rebellious. She was not ungrateful. She was simply exhausted from being loved only when she required nothing. My dear sister, there is a kind of disappearance that happens without anyone leaving the house. Your body remains. Your voice can still be heard. You continue cooking, helping, caring, smiling, and fulfilling responsibilities. But slowly, the person Allah created begins to vanish beneath the person everyone expects you to be. And because people praise your sacrifice, you may not realize that you are disappearing. You may call it patience. You may call it being a good daughter. You may call it being a good wife. But sometimes what you call goodness is fear wearing religious clothing. Fear of disappointing people. Fear of being called difficult. Fear of being accused of changing. Fear that love will be withdrawn the moment you finally say, this is hurting me. Today you need to hear something that may feel uncomfortable before it feels freeing. Allah did not create you to become invisible so that everyone else could remain comfortable. You can honor your parents without surrendering your entire identity. You can love your husband without becoming emotionally homeless. You can care for your family without treating your own soul as if it has no rights. You are not a machine built to serve. You are not a container where everyone can pour their anger. You are not the family's emergency room while your own wounds remain untreated. You are a servant of Allah before you are anyone's daughter, wife, sister, or mother. Every relationship in your life must exist beneath that truth, not above it. So let me ask you a question that may reveal more than you expect. When was the last time you made a decision because it was right, not merely because you were afraid someone would be unhappy with you? The day she realized everyone loved her absence. One of the most painful discoveries a woman can make is that some people do not love her peace. They love her lack of boundaries. They love the version of her who never says no. The version who answers every call. The version who apologizes even when she was wounded. The version who accepts harsh words and then comforts the person who spoke them. The version who cancels her plans, lowers her dreams, hides her exhaustion, and convinces herself that this is what a good woman does. Everyone may praise that version of you. They may say you are easy to live with. They may say you never cause problems. They may tell others that you are patient and obedient. But ask yourself honestly, do they love your presence? Or do they love the fact that you have learned to make yourself absent? Because there is a difference. To love your presence means they care about your heart. They notice when you are quiet. They respect your limits. They ask what you think. They value your dreams. They do not need you to shrink in order to feel powerful. But to love your absence means they prefer you without needs, without questions, without disagreement, and without a voice. You may have spent years trying to become the woman nobody could complain about. But my dear sister, people will still complain. Even when you give everything, someone may ask why you did not give more. Even when you remain silent, someone may accuse your silence of being disrespectful. Even when you carry everyone, they may become angry the day your knees become weak. That is why you cannot build your identity on human approval. Human approval is a moving target. The more you chase it, the further it moves. Today, they praise you for sacrificing your sleep. Tomorrow, they expect you to sacrifice your health. Today, they praise you for giving up one dream. Tomorrow, they question why you ever had dreams at all. There is a dangerous pattern many sincere women enter. First, you do something out of love, then people become used to it. Then they begin expecting it. Then they become offended when you cannot continue. What began as kindness becomes an obligation you never agreed to. What began as generosity becomes the minimum required to avoid criticism. This does not mean you should stop being kind. It means kindness must come from faith and choice, not from fear and emotional pressure. A good heart needs wisdom. Otherwise, people may use your mercy to keep you trapped. You are allowed to notice when your kindness is being consumed without gratitude. You are allowed to notice when you are the only person protecting the relationship. You are allowed to notice when peace exists only because you never speak about what hurts. That is not always peace. Sometimes it is emotional silence. Sometimes the house is quiet because one woman has learned to scream only inside herself. And my dear sister, you were not created to spend your life screaming where nobody can hear you. You do not have to become harsh. You do not have to become disrespectful. You do not have to expose every family weakness. But you must stop calling your disappearance a virtue. Your gentleness is valuable. Your service is honorable. Your care can be an act of worship, but only when the woman performing those acts is still alive inside them. You can serve everyone and still betray your own soul. There is a betrayal people rarely discuss. It is not the betrayal of a husband. It is not the betrayal of a friend. It is the betrayal of your own soul. It happens when your heart says, I cannot continue like this, but your mouth says, I am fine. It happens when your body is exhausted, but you feel guilty for resting. It happens when you know something is wrong, but you silence your conscience because speaking may upset the family. It happens when you abandon your values to maintain someone else's approval. Many women have been taught that sacrificing themselves is the highest form of love. But sacrifice and self-destruction are not the same. A mother may lose sleep to care for her child. A daughter may rearrange her schedule to help her parents. A wife may stand beside her husband through hardship. These sacrifices can be beautiful because love sometimes requires effort. But healthy sacrifice has meaning. It has balance. It does not require you to become less human. Self-destruction is different. Self-destruction happens when there is never an end to what you must give. When your pain is ignored. When your health is treated as unimportant. When you are expected to carry responsibilities that should be shared. When every request becomes a test of whether you are good enough. When saying no is treated like a moral failure. My dear sister, you are responsible for your soul. Your emotional health matters. Your physical health matters. Your faith matters. Your connection with Allah matters. Your education, your growth, and the gifts placed inside you matter. This does not mean every dream must come true exactly as you planned. Life requires compromise. Marriage requires cooperation. Families require patience. But compromise means two people make room for each other. It does not mean one person becomes the room while everyone else fills it. You may believe ignoring yourself makes you noble. But consider what happens after years of self-neglect. The woman who never rests becomes angry at people she loves. The woman who never speaks eventually explodes over small things. The woman who never receives care begins feeling resentful when asked to give. The woman who was taught to ignore her emotions may eventually lose the ability to connect with her own children. You cannot pour peace into a home while living in constant war within yourself. You cannot give healthy love from a place of complete emotional starvation. You cannot teach your daughters dignity while allowing them to watch you accept humiliation. Your children do not only listen to what you teach, they study what you tolerate. A daughter may hear you tell her that she is valuable, but if she watches you apologize for having basic needs, she may learn that a woman's value disappears inside marriage. A son may hear you speak about respect, but if he watches women serving while men never show gratitude, he may learn that care is something he is entitled to receive. This is why protecting your dignity is not always a private matter. It can become a lesson for the entire generation growing around you. Do not betray your soul to preserve an image. Do not destroy yourself so people can call the family perfect. A perfect looking home can contain a woman who cries in the bathroom because it is the only room where nobody asks anything from her. Your pain does not become meaningless simply because nobody sees it. Allah sees what people overlook. But remember this carefully, knowing that Allah sees you does not mean you must remain in every harmful situation without seeking change. Faith does not require you to pretend wounds do not exist. Faith gives you the courage to face them truthfully. Not every silence is patience, some silence is fear. There is a silence that comes from strength, and there is a silence that comes from fear. The silence of strength chooses the right time to speak. It refuses useless arguments. It protects dignity. It does not react to every insult. But the silence of fear believes, if I speak, I will lose love. The silence of fear says, maybe my feelings are wrong. It says, maybe I am asking for too much. It says, perhaps I should accept this because other women have it worse. It says, people will blame me if the marriage struggles. It says, my parents will think I am ungrateful. Many women are encouraged to remain patient, but nobody asks what they are being patient with. Patience with financial hardship can be beautiful when husband and wife support each other. Patience with illness can be beautiful. Patience while building a life together can be beautiful. But patience should not be used as a word that protects cruelty from accountability. A woman is insulted and she is told to be patient. She is controlled and she is told to be patient. She is threatened and she is told to protect the family name. She is emotionally broken and people remind her of the reward for endurance without asking the person harming her to change. That is not justice. You cannot place every burden of family peace on the person who is being wounded. Sometimes the most patient thing you can do is speak clearly before resentment destroys your heart. Sometimes patience means seeking help instead of pretending. Sometimes patience means refusing to answer anger with anger while still saying, you may not speak to me this way. Sometimes patience means giving a relationship the opportunity to become healthier by bringing hidden problems into the light. And sometimes when there is real abuse, danger, or repeated cruelty, patience means taking safe and wise steps to protect yourself. Silence does not automatically make you righteous. Speaking does not automatically make you rebellious. The question is not simply whether you speak. The question is why, how, and for what purpose. Speak to repair, not to humiliate. Speak with dignity, not revenge. Speak after thinking, not merely reacting. But speak. Your heart cannot survive forever in a room where every truth is forbidden. You may be afraid that people will misunderstand you. They may. You may be afraid that relatives will take sides. Some may. You may be afraid that your husband will say you have changed. Perhaps you have changed. Perhaps you have finally understood that love cannot grow where honesty is punished. Perhaps you are no longer willing to call emotional neglect a normal marriage. Perhaps you have realized that being a daughter does not mean remaining a child forever. There comes a time when a woman must stop asking permission to have a human experience. You are allowed to be tired. You are allowed to feel hurt. You are allowed to disagree respectfully. You are allowed to ask questions. You are allowed to seek counseling. You are allowed to tell trusted people that you need help. You are allowed to say that something is not acceptable. And if you are facing threats, violence, forced isolation, financial control, or serious emotional abuse, do not carry it alone. Reach out to trustworthy relatives, qualified counselors, responsible religious leaders, local support services, or legal protection where necessary. Your safety is not a family embarrassment. The wrongdoing is the embarrassment, not the fact that you needed help. A home is not saved by one woman dying inside it. Some women are taught that the entire emotional future of the family rests on their shoulders. If the home is peaceful, she is praised. If the home is tense, she is blamed. If the children struggle, people question her motherhood. If the husband is distant, people ask what she failed to provide. If relatives are upset, she is expected to repair every connection. My dear sister, a home is a shared responsibility. A marriage cannot be carried by one heart. One person cannot communicate for two people. One person cannot apologize for two people. One person cannot create emotional safety while the other creates fear. One person cannot keep giving respect while receiving contempt and still call it a partnership. You may have been trying to save a marriage by becoming smaller. You stopped discussing your needs. You stopped visiting people you loved. You gave up interests that made you feel alive. You accepted decisions without consultation. You convinced yourself that avoiding conflict was the same as building peace. But every time you abandoned yourself, the marriage did not necessarily become stronger. It may only have become more dependent on your silence. A healthy home does not require a woman to erase her personality. Your husband did not marry a shadow. He married a human being with thoughts, emotions, strengths, weaknesses, hopes, and fears. Marriage should refine both people. It should teach mercy, responsibility, humility, and cooperation. It should not make one person powerful and the other person afraid. You can be a loving wife and still say, I need your support. You can be respectful and still say, this decision affects me and my opinion matters. You can care deeply for your marriage and still refuse humiliation. You can forgive and still require change. Forgiveness does not mean reopening the door to the same behavior without accountability. Forgiveness cleans poison from your heart. Trust is rebuilt through consistent actions. Do not confuse the two. A person may say sorry because they fear consequences. Real change appears in how they behave after the apology. You are not asking for perfection. You are asking for responsibility. You are not demanding a life without hardship. You are asking not to be alone inside the hardship. A good husband is not threatened by his wife's growth. He does not fear her education. He does not mock her emotions. He does not require her weakness to prove his strength. He understands that leadership is not domination. It is responsibility before Allah. And a good wife does not destroy her husband's dignity either. She does not weaponize his weaknesses. She does not compare him constantly. She does not use public humiliation to win private arguments. Both are accountable. Both must learn. Both must grow. This is not a message telling women they are always right. It is a message reminding women that they are fully human. You can make mistakes and still deserve respect. You can need correction and still deserve gentleness. You can be imperfect without becoming a target. Do not accept the lie that because you have weaknesses, you must tolerate someone else's cruelty. Every human being has weaknesses. That never makes oppression acceptable. A home is not saved when the woman inside it loses her light. That home may remain standing, but something sacred has already collapsed. The good daughter becomes the invisible wife. Before some women disappear in marriage, they first learn to disappear as daughters. They grow up believing that love must be earned through obedience without question. They become the child who never causes trouble. They study what their parents want. They dress how the family wants. They choose friendships the family approves. They hide opinions that may create disagreement. They become experts at reading the room. They know when their father is angry before he speaks. They know when their mother is disappointed from the movement of her eyes. They learn to adjust themselves before anyone asks. Everyone calls them mature, but sometimes they are not mature. They are anxious. They have learned that safety comes from keeping everyone pleased. Then they get married, and the habit follows them. They do not know how to express a need without guilt. They do not know how to disagree without panic. They do not know whether they truly want something or simply want to avoid disappointing someone. They have been praised for being easy their whole life. So the first time they establish a boundary, everyone says they have changed. The family may blame the husband. The husband may blame the friends. But the truth may be simpler. She has finally begun to become an adult. Honoring your parents does not mean you stop developing a mind. Respecting them does not require you to surrender every decision. Parents deserve compassion, gratitude, service, and good treatment. But they are still human. They may have fears. They may carry cultural expectations. They may confuse control with protection. They may believe that because a choice worked for them, it must be right for you. You can listen carefully without obeying every preference. You can disagree without becoming cruel. You can choose differently without insulting their sacrifices. This balance requires wisdom. Do not use independence as an excuse for arrogance. Do not speak harshly and call it honesty. Do not cut people off because they struggle to understand your growth. Give them time where possible. Explain with kindness. Remain respectful. But do not return to emotional childhood simply because your adulthood makes others uncomfortable. You may feel guilty when you begin making your own decisions. That guilt does not always mean you are doing something wrong. Sometimes guilt is simply the feeling of breaking an unhealthy pattern. You were trained to believe that everyone's disappointment is your emergency. It is not. People are allowed to feel disappointed. You are allowed to make a responsible decision they would not have chosen. Your mother's sadness does not automatically make your decision sinful. Your father's anger does not automatically make your voice disrespectful. Your relative's gossip does not determine your character. You must examine your intentions honestly. Ask yourself whether you are acting from ego, revenge, faith, wisdom, or fear. Seek good counsel. Pray for guidance. Consider consequences. But after doing so, do not hand your entire life to people who will not stand before Allah in your place. The good daughter is not the daughter who never grows. She is the daughter who carries gratitude into adulthood without carrying emotional chains. She honors her parents while becoming the woman Allah created her to become. Boundaries do not make you cold, they teach love where to stop. Many women hear the word boundaries and imagine selfishness. They imagine cutting people off. They imagine becoming hard, distant, or disrespectful. But a boundary is not always a wall. Sometimes it is a door with a handle. It allows healthy love to enter while keeping harm outside. A boundary says, I love you, but I cannot accept insults. It says, I want to help, but I do not have the strength today. It says, I respect you, but I need time to think. It says, we can discuss this when we are both calm. It says, I will not lie to protect behavior that is harming the family. Boundaries do not destroy healthy relationships. They reveal unhealthy expectations. A person who truly loves you may not enjoy every boundary, but they can learn to respect it. A person who benefits from your lack of boundaries may call you selfish the moment you establish one. Do not be surprised when people are used to unlimited access. Basic limits feel like rejection. Begin gently. You do not need to change everything in one dramatic day. Start by noticing where resentment appears. Resentment often grows where a boundary was needed but never spoken. Perhaps you agree to every request and later feel angry. Perhaps you answer calls when you need rest. Perhaps you accept jokes that humiliate you. Perhaps you allow relatives to interfere in private matters. Perhaps you say yes because you are afraid of being disliked. Pause before answering. You do not have to respond immediately. You can say, let me think about it. You can say, I am not able to do that today. You can say, I understand your concern, but this is the decision I have made. At first, your voice may shake. Your heart may race. You may replay the conversation for hours. That does not mean the boundary was wrong. It means your nervous system is learning that disagreement is not the end of love. A boundary also applies to you. You cannot demand respect while insulting others. You cannot ask people to honor your time while constantly ignoring theirs. You cannot call every correction control. You cannot use the language of healing to avoid responsibility. Healthy boundaries require self-awareness. They are not weapons. They are agreements about how love will be practiced. And sometimes the most important boundary is internal. Stop explaining yourself to people committed to misunderstanding you. Stop measuring your worth by how useful you were today. Stop believing that rest must be earned through exhaustion. Stop feeling responsible for emotions you did not create. You can support someone without solving everything for them. You can love someone without carrying the consequences of every decision they make. You can care without becoming consumed. Your heart is a trust. Not everyone should be given unlimited access to it. Allah did not ask you to disappear to be loved. My dear sister, perhaps you have reached a point where you barely recognize yourself. You were once curious. You had dreams. You enjoyed learning. You laughed without checking whether anyone approved. You spoke with confidence. Then life slowly taught you to reduce yourself. Maybe marriage changed you. Maybe family pressure changed you. Maybe motherhood exhausted you. Maybe criticism made you afraid. Maybe you kept postponing yourself. You said, after